at child age 7. So to give a brief overview about the talk, I will speak shortly about the pro-kind intervention. Then I will give a summary about the medium or short-term effects at 36 months after birth of the children. And I will focus on the mother-child interaction measured by videotapes. And finally, I will talk about the medium-term effects of the intervention, which we measured at 7 years after childbirth. So we all know in this audience that targeted early childhood intervention have the potential to be effective and efficient in the long run. So there is much research about this topic. And but the evidence mainly comes from very few targeted intervention, and mainly by the work of James Heckman about the preschool program. But besides this preschool programs, which received a lot of attention, there are other early childhood programs, and one prominent is home visiting for disadvantaged children, which start early in life or during pregnancy and continue to the 2nd or 3rd birthday of the children. And about home visiting programs, which are very popular worldwide, and many disadvantaged families are served by home visiting programs. About these programs there are some evaluations about it, but and they show small and to medium positive effects. But actually, these evaluations focus just on short-term evaluations. So actually, long-term evaluations are missing, with some rare exceptions, as the Nurse-Family Partnership Program or the Preparing for Life, which Orla Doyle will also present here in this seminar, or the Jamaica study, which will also be presented here. But these are very few exemptions about long-term follow-ups of home visiting programs. And all or most of these evaluation of home visiting programs are located in the US. However, it's
the evaluations of the programs themselves. You've got quite a global. You've got Jamaica and Ireland here on the map, and Ols is in England too. So
I know in England, true. We have the FN.
So there's not an American program on this list.
This is true, but most programs are from the US. But of course you're completely right that in the last years they occurred also, as I also have it on the slides, the Jamaica study and Preparing for Life. They are conducted outside the US.
And the most successful seem to be outside the US for some reason. Right?
When you go to developing countries, true, but if you have the European examples, it's quite mixed. And actually, apart from Preparing for Life, the results are modest, to say it in this way. But anyway, I think we agree that it is important to evaluate home visiting programs in different settings, because we all know that the welfare state is different in different countries, and the welfare state it's very likely that interacts with the effectiveness of home visiting. If you think on health insurance, incentives for mothers to work, childcare, and so on. And I think we also all agree that follow-up evaluations are important, since short-term effects may fade out, latent effects may get visible, and I guess we are all interested in having more knowledge about how these programs work. So actually, we conducted a follow-up until age 5 of the pro-kind home visiting program, and this is 5 years after the intervention ended in Germany. And actually, I will tell now a little bit about the ProKind home visiting program. So ProKind is actually the German adaptation of the US Nurse-Family Partnership Program. It's very similar. It uses the same guidebooks. It uses the same affiliation criteria. It uses the same structure of the home visits and so on. So it's really the German adaptation. And actually home visits the home visits are conducted by midwives, nurses, or social pedagogues. This is actually the only difference to the US Nurse-Family Partnership Program, because, as I said, in Germany, midwives conduct the home visits, but these are very special midwives. They are very well trained in also supporting mother-child interaction and so on, because in Germany, midwives get they are not just focusing or trained in giving delivery, but they are also trained in supporting the family. So we also call them family midwives. And the home visits start during pregnancy and continue to the second birthday.
What's their level of education? I mean,
they all have vocational training, but in Germany, vocational training is more or less comparable with a bachelor degree in other countries.
Bachelor degree, right. So
yeah.
They're highly trained. Like
they are highly
NFP,
trained, definitely.
The NFP people are registered nurses, right?
Correct, yes.
Right,
So, but
okay.
from the education background, it's quite similar, actually. So in Germany, they're also very well trained. Exactly, the frequency of the home visiting is between weekly, bi-weekly, and monthly, with the biggest distances between the home visits in the end of the program. And over 52 home visits are scheduled with a quasi-fixed curriculum. So each home visit has a topic. And the affiliation criteria is first-time mothers. And the affiliation takes place from the 12th to the 28th week of pregnancy. And all the mothers are disadvantaged. And our definition of disadvantage was receiving social welfare or unemployment benefits, having a low income, or being over-indebted. And ProKind was conducted in 3 German federal states, in Bremen, Lower Saxony, and Saxony. Here you see the German map. I hope you can see my arrow here. So this is Berlin, and we have 1 federal state in Eastern Germany and 2 in Western Germany, and there are different municipalities in which ProKind was conducted. And actually, the aims of ProKind are to improve parental skills, to increase sufficient child stimulation, and to avoid child abuse and neglect, and improving child and maternal health, and improving families' economic self-sufficiency and appropriate family planning. And actually, ProKind is evaluated by a randomized controlled trial. Overall, 755 families were enrolled, and they were randomly allocated to a treatment and the control group. And both groups received the German welfare state services, but only the treatment group received the ProKind home visits.
So what happens in a home visit? Are you going to tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, they have the average duration of 90 minutes. And they start with, how can I say, briefly talking about how the last week or the last 2 weeks happened, or what happened in the last 2 weeks. And after this start, if there is no crisis or acute problem, then the home visitor tries to conduct the aim of this home visit, or actually to get this topic of the home visits, to speak about the topic of the home visit, and the topics are given by the guidebook. And for each of the 52 home visits, there is a certain topic, or sometimes it's even 2 or 3 topics. But there's quite a strong structure of the home visits. And so the home visitor and the family are really speaking about topics which are relevant at this time of the relationship. For example, during pregnancy, of course, they speak about pregnancy-related issues. If the child, or after birth, they speak about how to stimulate and how to care for the child and how to avoid, for example, danger of accidents and these things. But it's not like that they speak about the weather or whatever. No, they really try to focus on these structured curriculum.
Is there a sense in which you say it's a structured curriculum, but like week by week they go through the guidebook, but does that give the children some tasks to perform, or the visitors some words to say? Or I'm just curious how it's
these
designed.
guidebooks, they concern, how can I say, material where the mother and the home visitor look together. They speak about this material. They say, okay, here you have a sheet where you can see what is dangerous for the child, for example, in terms of accidents. And then you see, okay, in your flat, there are some critical things which could lead to accidents, so maybe we can solve it. Or there is a dog, maybe you should really be careful whether the dog should be alone with the child, and stuff like this. And if you speak to the child directly and you stimulate it by your voice, this is good for the child, and these things. But also, for example, more physical health things like supporting breastfeeding. This is also directly after birth a topic. And also how to breastfeed, how long to breastfeed. Also during pregnancy, they speak about smoking, quitting smoking, and these things. I don't know. Do you have any other questions?
No.
Sorry?
But I'm just saying it's not a specific curriculum where you march through, you say, well, here, you're going to learn the alphabet today, or this is how you look at the speech.
But as I said, it is structured in a way that you have for the home visits during pregnancy, which I think they were 12. It is like you also repeat things. If you talk during pregnancy of quitting about quitting smoking, and you asked you talked about this at home visit 3, then you repeat it in home visit 4 and in home visit 5, and you are and the home visitor asked, how successful have you been? So,
But all I'm saying is it's not specifically oriented towards marching the child through a certain set of tasks, or
no, absolutely not. No.
So it's really advice to the parents about how to
exactly.
raise the kid.
Yeah. It's really everything is concentrated on the parents, on the mothers mainly in our case. Although fathers could also participate in the home visits, but completely true. It's really supporting the mothers in dealing with the child. Okay. So yes, this is a research design. So actually, we have the home visits in the first row, and then we have the evaluation phase 1, which continued to the 3rd birthday, and we have the evaluation phase 2, which in which we collected data at 7 years. And we have different data sources. So we have social security data, we have health insurance data, and we have data from telephone and personal interviews and from assessments. And what is very important for this talk is that we also have videotapes at age 24 months in which we measure mother-child interaction.
Okay, you're going to show how they're conducted. Okay, go ahead.
Exactly. I think this will be most of my talk. Right. You have to tell me how much time I have actually.
Well, just it's until 1:50.
Okay.
So 1 hour still.
Okay, good, great. So here just to visualize our longitudinal dimension of our data. So we have data where the child are really infants, where they're toddlers, and with age 7 they're already in school, and so exactly. And now I will give an overview about the results at stage 1, so the more or less short-term effects. So we find that ProKind improved cognitive development, but this effect was concentrated on girls. And then we find several impacts on mothers. So actually the intervention improved mental health of the mothers. And surprisingly, it reduced maternal employment and it increased welfare receipt. And mothers in the treatment group had more second birth. But on the opposite, they had higher life satisfaction. So they worked less, received more welfare, and had more babies. And this was not the aim of the program. But actually,
how important numerically? We say more second births, like is it a
we
10% increase, or
we had an increase of 8 percentage points. So the control group in this time had like, I think it was 18%, and then the treatment group had like 26% second birth. And this was definitely, and we exactly, it's a quite big effect, exactly. And it's very well measured because we could see it with the admin data. So we had also no attrition, and this is very, also, very convincing. And then actually we find by survey data then that the reason or the biggest reason for the increased fertility in the treatment group is that they have less abortions, which completely makes sense because actually they are better prepared in dealing with the child. And so maybe in this critical decision, or when they have to make this critical decision of having an abortion, they often decide for keeping the child instead of having an abortion.
But abortion is at 8 percentage points, not be right. It's like
it's not the complete it's not the complete effect which can be explained by the reduced abortions in the treatment group, but it makes a quite big percentage of it. Yeah.
So what's the background of the parents, though? Are they married? Are how many?
Most of them are not married, but they live in relationships. Sometimes with the father of the child, but also often with new ones. So the relationships are not that stable, to say it like this. But often they have relationships, yes.
And what about the background? I mean, how many come from immigrant families, and how many?
This is actually when you see this socioeconomic background, it would be like 20 to 25% with a migrational background. But in our sample, we have between 10 to 15. So they're a little bit underrepresented, given our low SES. Most are very low educated, receiving welfare. The mean age is like 21 years, 21 and a half. So there are also some mothers who are a little bit older, but of course also a lot of teenage moms. These kind of characteristics. Okay, so we also find that some parental skills are improved, not that much, but there are some. Actually, this was a little bit disappointing. We expected here more. And actually, we find that mother-child interaction was improved. And this is the paper I want to focus on. And this is joint work with Gabriela Conti.
When you say parental skills are improved, what skills are you measuring and how?
This is like parental self-efficacy, parental knowledge. It's all survey-based.
And these are self-reports?
Self-reports, exactly.
Okay.
So, exactly. But the mother-child interaction we measure with videotapes, as I will explain in a minute. And actually, we don't have effects on physical health for the mother or the child. So we don't have an effect on birth weight, on health, also not on health behavior like smoking or breastfeeding.
Just a quick question. You might touch on this, but are the videotapes and the self-reports correlated? Like, how are the two related?
Yeah, we did it, and actually they are. So now let me think. We have there, at least with some, to say it like with those because some of the self-reported items are not so, how can I say, sophisticating, but with the more sophisticating ones, they were correlated actually. But I will say to this a little bit more now, because actually the paper I will present now is, as I said before, with Gabriela Conti, joint work, and also with Stefanos Prokakis and Sören Klim. And
So
yeah,
one
we have
question,
published it. Yeah.
Would you think that you would find those same effects or similar with a more advantaged population?
I would definitely say no. That this disadvantage is definitely a reason why we find effects, because we see that the levels of when they give the responses to these parenting practices, they give quite low answers, and also the child development is very low in our samples. So these children are not very well developed, and I think that this gives the reason why there is space to improve. So
what kind of standard do you record the interactions quality during the interventions?
The quality between the home visitors and the families, or what do you mean exactly?
Yeah, because I just curious. Yeah, one thing will be like between home visitors and the families, and the other thing maybe between the home visitors and the child. Yeah.
Actually, the home visitors and the child, we haven't measured the interactions, because actually the home visitors are not so much interacting with the child. They're always interacting with the mothers. And there we have questionnaires for the mothers, how they perceived the relationship between the home visitors and themselves. And we have also ratings by the home visitors. And actually there is, how can I say, for each home visit, the home visitors made a report where they reported which topics they covered, whether the mother was attentive, and yeah, so on. So this is something which also Nurse Family Partnership does, and which is very important for the whole idea and the whole structure of the program, that there is this monitoring, controlling, to call it like this, for each home visit.
We also find it very important in terms of the interaction qualities between home visitor and the parents, the caregiver. So I'm curious, like in terms of videotaping, whether you guys have some kind of preset rules, like to give like the scores or like the qualities or evaluations in terms of the interactions?
Actually, we tried, and because we have a supervisors, and actually they're scored what they think how the interaction between family and home visitor is. So the supervisors, they scored it. And then we tried, because we expected bigger effects for those families where the supervisors scored the relationship high between home visit and family, but actually we didn't find this. So maybe the supervisors, yeah, I don't know whether they were not right in their judgment, or.
Yeah, I see.
But we don't have, to say it like this, we don't have something objective to measure the relationship between home visitor and family. But
how often do the supervisors monitor the visitors?
Like all 2 months, something like this. So they have 6 meetings.
6 meetings, okay.
6 meetings per year, something like this, yes. Maybe
do you have
sometimes
background characteristics of the visitors? I mean, something about their psychological traits. You know,
it's difficult.
Like
we were not actually allowed to collect this data.
I see.
Unfortunately, we just have the profession, and I think this is all. We not even have the age, because this was data sensitive and difficult. Yeah,
but presumably you could infer that. I mean, do the home visitors show up at all on your videotapes or not?
No, they do not.
I see.
because this was done during the research assessments, and during the research assessments, the home visitors were not there. So they were, of course, not in the family when we did when we collected the data. Okay. So exactly, now we come to the video data, and early literature in child development had indicated that intervention effects on child development were unlikely to occur unless mothers modified their style of interacting with children. And so economics have started to consider the role of parenting. However, in this literature, mostly self-reported measures are used, and they are not used in the context of early interventions. And actually, they do not cover parent-child interactions. And actually, we now want to, or I wanted to expand this literature and asked whether ProKind increased the occurrence of positive parenting behaviors in the mothers and positive behaviors in the children, and whether ProKind improved differently the mother-child interaction between mother-child pairs.
And the father or the cohabiter is off the table.
We have just video data from the mothers. And mothers.
I mean, how many of these mothers have a cohabiting father around, and how many don't?
You mean biological father?
Well,
this was the biological. I would get so. I think the biological father was in 40%. Also available or at the home. And in 40%, there was some new partner or some other partner, and maybe 20% were alone.
But so the new most partner of them may become very engaged as well. So
sure. I think it would be nice to have more information about the father and also about the effects on the fathers.
But you just don't have
this is difficult to obtain this data. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, but actually in the admin data, we have information about not the biological father, but we know with who they live in a household. And this is something we are working at the moment on. So whether there are spillover effects on employment of the person who lives with the mother in the household.
I see.
Yeah. Okay, so we taped interaction of 109 mother-child pairs. They were randomly chosen. 24 months after birth in a normal play situation in the family's homes. And each video is 3 minutes long, 180 seconds. And we rated the videos by the Mannheim rating scales for the analysis of mother-child interaction in toddlers. And this is actually a quite known rating scale for videos, which is also used in other contexts. And at least in Europe or in Germany in particular, it's quite popular. And we had 2 independent raters.
This was in the lab or in the home of the family?
Sorry.
The interaction was in the lab or in the home of the family?
It's the home of the parents. I will show a video in a second. So then, and actually, little use until now of video data in evaluations of home visiting programs. Only the Health Families New York and the NFP used videos, but actually they used it as global observational. So they made this video and then they just rated the video overall, or they used static measures so that they just summed the occurrence of certain behaviors in a certain time interval.
So the ratings are given by the same people over children, different children. I'm just wondering how stable.
Exactly. Yes. So they rated and they were trained, and then there was a trainer, and then we also got the trainer rater validity, and it was quite high. So the rater, the trainer rated a video, and the rater rated a video, and then there was high reliability.
No, I'm just wondering how many different people were involved in these ratings.
2. We had 2 raters.
Just 2. Okay, fine.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. I was just
and now
about,
to get a better.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Fine.
Okay. Just to get a better impression how these videos looked like. So here we have a mother. She agreed that we can show her. We have a mother. We have the child, and here we look. We have this typical play situation. And we see that the mother is interacting with the child. Actually, the mother is speaking to the child. The child is not that much focusing on the mother, but the child is more focusing on the game. Now the child is completely away. But you see that now the child is giving something to the mother, which is interacting. Okay, and this was now 30 seconds, and we have these videos on 180 seconds. And most of these videos are like this, that they have that they place with some toys, mother and child.
But do you set the
Okay.
task? I mean, did you put this particular device out to be
It
played
was
with?
no. This was could have also the families choose it.
So just,
They,
you know, whatever
the
happens to be
rater
there,
is when we did
3
the
minutes.
assessment, we just say just play with your child with one of your toys of your choice.
I see. Okay.
Okay. And as I said before, 2 independent raters scored the presence of specific behaviors within a pre-specified time interval over the 180 seconds. And we have 3 outcome behaviors. So the first one is orientation, and orientation occurs if orientation was on the play situation and the partner. Then it is positive, it's a positive behavior, and 0 otherwise. And actually we have, okay, to explain it better, we have slided these 180 seconds in 5-second intervals. And in each interval, there is a 1 if the mother focused on the toy and the child. And we did it for the children, whether the child focused on the mother or on the toy, then they got a 1. Okay. And the second outcome is positive contingency. It's also measured in the 5-second intervals. And positive contingency occurs if the child or the mother showed positive contingency. And this is, for example, that the child smiled to the mother, or that the mother, for example, initiated an interaction, or the child initiated an interaction. And lastly, we have negative or lack of contingency. And this occurs if the child, for example, reacts crying to an action of the mother, or if the mother does not react to the action of the child. Okay, so to make this also more visible, we have
why do you lump those categories together?
Okay, can you repeat the question? Why?
No, I'm just wondering. I mean, here there are 2 actions here. The first, orientation, is something the mother and child both do.
Okay.
Positive contingency, the mother, but then there are all these other states that could be mother does this, child doesn't, and so forth.
Yeah, but
And you're lumping
there's
everything
a little
else
bit
in this category.
arbitrarity to say it like this. But in the end, we have some, how can I say, positive contingency. It is that the mother or the child is positively to the other person. And open. And yeah, this bases on this Mannheim rating scale, where also the rater are trained in actually recognizing these behaviors.
Okay. I just but the first category is joint.
Yeah.
Is it?
The first is
they both positive.
Yeah, it's positive if the orientation is on the play situation and on the mother. Otherwise,
right, so it's a combination of mother and child characteristic.
No, as for the mother, she has to focus on the child and the toy, and the child has to focus on the mother and the toy. So,
right.
So maybe I will. These are the video rating sheets. Mutter means mother. So this is a sheet for the mother, but the mother gets a sheet and the child gets a sheet. And then here are the 36 intervals. And here for orientation, the rater writes in that focus was on both. Here only on parent. No, P is whatever. But you get it. So these are the codes for certain behaviors of the mother, where the mother is oriented.
Right. I'm just thinking if in that particular example, you have a whole variety of characteristics. You have you know, the mother and child could both, mother only, but child not, child only, mother not, and both not. So, I mean, it seems like the categorization is collapsing some information you have here.
But not at the same time interval, no? Or
Well, no, I guess by definition, by design.
Yeah.
No, but I'm just saying there are more categories than just 3 if you used all your data, right? Even at a minute, even at a moment in time, right? Or maybe I'm missing something.
and you mean that there could be more, how can I say, more going on in the terms of behaviors? Is this what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, sure, this is true. We actually, okay, we chose these 3 because I will show this here now. They are mostly correlated with our cognitive development and also with other outcomes. So this is the reason why we chose these 3. When you see here this video rating sheet, you see the 2 first columns, and then there are 3 more columns. There are also other things measured, but we didn't use these as outcomes. We had to focus on, or we decided to focus on orientation, positive, contingency, and negative contingency.
But it sounds like you're picking your categories on the basis of
they
predict some outcome.
We did it because they were mostly correlated with child outcomes. We thought that this is a convincing argument to choose these ones.
No, I know, but I'm saying that has implications for inference then down the road. When you can't go back and reuse these characteristics and say, oh, you know, this positively affects.
This
So
may
it's like
be true.
it's like you really you're selecting your sample on the basis of the outcome. You're selecting your variables on the basis.
Okay, but is it because? But is it true when we choose it because it's most correlated to other things that we choose it? We didn't choose it because how can I say, effects are largest, or yeah, but sure, yeah, it would have also been possible to use more. This is true.
No, I just worry about the fact that you may be rigging your results. It's like you have a whole bunch of results, and the ones you focus on are the ones that are whole bunch of activities, I should say, and you put a subset that is most predictive of the thing you're trying to understand. Maybe I'm misunderstanding how you got these measures.
But the point is, how can I say, we had to make it in somehow or some way handleable. So this is another reason why we choose actually, yeah, these 3 outcomes.
But there's this worry, right? The treatment affected these outcomes, the child cognitive score for females, and then you selected the measures that are related to the child outcome, like the cognitive score.
But then we thought it is most, how can I say, they are most meaningful.
Yeah, but it's like there's a mechanical correlation. I think that's Professor Eichhorn saying.
You mean also because we have positive effects on, yeah, but we also did it to explain what could, yeah, what could be the reason for the positive effects on cognitive development. Actually, what I present now is that we find also better interaction for girls than for boys in the treatment effect. So yes, sure, it is in a way constructed, yeah. But I think also that, how can I say, that we choose these 3 outcomes. Sure, it has problems, but I also think that it is, yeah, fair to do it. And otherwise, you see the rating sheet. It was, also, yeah, it would have been very difficult to also include other outcomes during this play situation.
Well, in some of the literature, people are addressing this problem. I'm not saying it's the best solution. Some people are addressing this problem, and actually Victor can speak to this more than I, but using things like lasso and things that are designed to say, here we have a set of variables, yeah, and we're going to pick one.
Sure, this would be a good idea. But I'm not sure whether for our estimation approach, this would have been worked 100% well. But yeah, maybe I can continue what we did actually then with the data. 1 second. Can you still hear me?
Quality is much worse, but we can, yeah.
Because okay, but the quality is much worse, or is it only worse? But
It's
you can
okay.
still hear me? It's
Okay.
okay, thanks, because otherwise I will lose my connection. I have to put anyway. So okay, great. So first we did a static analysis where we just counted the ones in the intervals, and exactly where an interval has a 1 if there is a certain behavior is present in that interval, and we present the average marginal effects based on a profit model, and so we want to see whether certain behaviors occur more often in this 180 seconds than in the treatment group than in the control of the mother and of the child. This is what others have done before too. So we wanted to add something. So we also do a dynamic interaction analysis. And in this analysis, we simultaneously model 2 equations, one for the mother and one for the child, for each of the 3 behaviors as function of the behavior of both members of the diet in the previous period by means of the cross-leg panel profit models. And you see the equations down there. So in the end, we are interested whether differently for treatment and control group, the lagged behavior has an influence of the present behavior. So the lagged behavior means the behavior in the interval before. Okay, and to give this a little bit more meaning, we decided or defined 4 scenarios. And the one was both scenario. In this scenario, mother and child showed positive behavior in the previous period. And then we are interested when mother and child showed positive behavior, how does this affect the behavior in the present interval? And the second scenario is that the mother showed in the previous period negative or no, in the example of orientation, no orientation, and the child also didn't show orientation. Where is then the predicted outcome in the present period. And we have also the scenario child and mother. In the child scenario, the child showed positive behavior, and in the mother scenario, the mother showed positive behavior. And to sum it up or to formulate a little bit different, we try to estimate which behavior occurs in the next period conditional on the interaction in the present period. And to give an example, if both were in a bad mood, so in the scenario none, do they remain in this behavior or can they adapt in the present period? Okay.
The previous period is 5 seconds ago.
Exactly.
Okay.
This is not a year or something, it's 5 seconds. So there's a lot of dynamic going on. But actually we have this professional raters, and actually we have there a lot of variation. So it's quite dynamic. There are often changes in the behavior, in the mood, and also now in the orientation, in the contingency, positive and negative. Okay, but now I come to the results.
Well, wait, I have a question though in this. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know how long it takes for a mood to pass. I mean, some of these moods, if the mother's upset, can she really become less upset in 5 seconds? Maybe
no, not maybe in 5 seconds. But yeah, but then she has 2 times this bad mood.
She has more time.
But maybe in the control group, it is 3 or 4 times. So then it is more likely that she remains in this negative mood, actually. And this is what we are interested in.
I understand. But what do you do about the fact that we think there's persistence? I mean, there's some, it's a standard problem of a probit model, but with unobservables, like a fixed effect or something to do with a persistence in behavior, which you don't know. So if there's somebody who has a certain propensity suppose there's a lighthearted mother versus a very heavy-handed, unhappy mother. It's unlikely they're going to move around that much. And it's going to lead to some kind of correlation pattern, which has nothing to do with the cause. It has to do with the person. How do you address that?
I'm not that sure. It's a very good point. I'm not sure whether we really address this very carefully. We think about more like that this type should be randomly allocated between mothers in the treatment control group, and this rules out most of these problems. I would address this question this way, I would say.
Well, I'm just wondering, wouldn't it be better in some ways, like suppose you cut your panel in half. So you had 90 seconds in the second half and 90 seconds in the first half.
Yeah.
You might use the first 90 seconds to kind of get a characteristic of the mother. What fraction of the time is she in a sour mood or not? Then conditional on that, asking what happens. There are different ways to control for these unobservables. I'm just wondering what you pursued.
Sounds very good. We should have done this. This is a good idea. Yeah. Maybe it would have been nice.
Well, there are a lot of other ways to do it. Okay, I just
this is the point. There are so many ways to do it, and we really it was not me, to be honest. It was more Stavros Popakis who worked with the data a lot, and he worked a lot with the data. And he was much into it, and he really enjoyed it also. And
where is he? By the way?
Sorry,
is he in Nuremberg too?
No, he is in Oxford now. He is in populations. No, actually, in some kind of science. Anyway,
okay.
In Oxford, definitely.
Okay.
I come to the results. Actually, these are the results from the static analysis. We see that the control group mean, the mean for the control group is, with child orientation, 49% of the time the children showed orientation, so positive orientation. And we see 4 percentage points more in the treatment group for the overall sample. But we don't see a significant effect, but we see a significant effect for the girls. So there, the positive orientation of the child is increased by 15 percentage points. And we find an effect for child negative contingency, where girls in the treatment group showed 3 percentage points less negative contingency, and also the overall sample, the complete sample showed 4% less contingency.
Do you know what happens? Can you control for the time so how recent was the last home visit relative to this play event?
Yeah, quite recent, because we did quite precisely 24 months the assessments, and this was also the time when the last home visit was not that far away. Yeah, actually, I tried something with the survey data, like this, how long the last home visit was away, but we haven't done it with the video data, actually.
I see.
But with the survey data, it wasn't correlated, actually. So the mothers didn't say that they were better mothers if the home visit was just very shortly, happened just very shortly in time before. Okay. Which is actually a good sign that it is not correlated, I think. Okay, here we show the results for the mother, for mother orientation, for mother positive contingency, and for mother negative contingency, and we don't see in treatment effect. Okay, this is was a static analysis, and now we come to the dynamic interaction.
Just a quick question. Yeah. Before you go for it, so if you control for the girls' cognitive score, would that effect go away? Because it seems to be child-driven, right? All the effects you're finding.
Can you repeat?
Oh, sorry. It's like it seems that the effects are child-driven, not parent-driven, right? And it seems to be from girls where you do find the cognitive change, right? Or effect from the program. If you control for that, would those differences go away, or will they persist?
What do you mean exactly? Controlling for what?
For the girls' cognitive score.
Ah, you mean? Oh, sorry. I think we haven't tried this actually. Yeah, we should have tried this. We haven't done this
because that seems to be the story, right? The program affected the development.
Yeah, sure.
Girls, which affected how.
But yeah, you mean that we? I'm not. I think we have. Yeah, sure. This is exactly. Yeah, sure. We should have done this. That we have to do more like a mediation. So this is, I think.
Yeah, simple mediation.
And then I think we did, and then actually, yeah. And we haven't it in the paper, but I think we did it. And actually, it was completely in line with what the story is exactly. So we controlled for it and put it into the effect on cognitive, and actually the interaction explained quite a lot. Yes, true. Yeah. But we haven't put it in the paper. I'm not sure why, but yeah. Okay, now we come to the dynamic interaction analysis. And actually, the way we present this is that we have columns or the rows for the girls and for the boys, and we have the different scenarios. And let me explain. So we have here the both scenarios. This means that child and mother showed positive orientation in the previous period. And actually, we predict the orientation in the present period. And actually, here we see a treatment effect for children, for girls. And we predict that if the mother showed positive orientation and the child showed positive orientation in the treatment group, the predicted probability is 76% that the child showed positive orientation in the present period. And in the control group, it's just 67%. So this is the way we use the data, and we did the dynamic interaction analysis. And we actually see that in the treatment group, this predicted probability is 95%, while it is 92% in the control group. So we find that there's differences between the interaction treatment control group, and that girls showed more positive behavior if in the previous period the mother and the child showed positive behavior. Okay, and here we also see this for another scenario where only the mother showed positive behavior and the child not. So actually the child calms down or shows positive behavior more likely in the treatment group, in the control group, if they showed no positive behavior in the previous period. Okay. Okay, and then we have the same for positive contingency. Here we have again the effect for the scenario both. So both mother and child showed positive contingency in the previous period, and we see that girls again have a higher probability to show positive contingency, but we have also here a negative effect for boys, and interestingly also for the mothers, and not just for the children, but also for the mother of a boy. There, the likelihood in the treatment group is smaller than in the control group to show positive contingency. Okay, but here we have also an effect for girls, for the children in the child scenario. So when the child showed positive contingency, but not the mother.
One question. How frequent are these categories for girls and boys? Maybe you showed that I missed. Like, is it
quite frequency? So we can see it actually in the static. Here we can. No, sorry. Here we can see it. 57% of the time they showed positive contingency. Actually, negative contingency is quite rare event.
Okay. And there's no gender differences there, right?
No, this is actually quite similar between boys and girls. I was now with the negative contingency. Here it's a little bit reversed. So we have the first scenario where none of the both showed negative contingency in the previous period, and then how this affects negative contingency in the present period. And we see that this is the case more often for girls in the control group than in the treatment group. So how can I say girls in the control group freak out more often without a reason to say it like this than girls in the treatment group, if you want to interpret it like this. And we also find that if just the child showed negative contingency, but the mother not, it is more likely that the girl in the treatment group calms down and doesn't show in the next period negative contingency than the girl in the control group. Yeah. And we have also here a very strange finding from our modeling. So here we have that if those, which is a very rare event, show negative contingency, so the child and the mother, then it is more likely in the treatment group that the mother shows in the present period negative contingency than in the control group. This is actually the only result which is, how can I say, against our predictions. But you must have in mind, these are very rare events that both mother and child have negative contingency. Okay, and now I come already to the end of this part of my presentation. Overall, the ProKind program has a positive impact on the quality of mother-daughter interaction. Treated girls always display improved behavior in strongly stable situations, for example, in the scenario both, in comparison to control girls. This may show that home visiting prevents unpredictable behavior changes and fosters stability in didactic interactions. And we find that treated girls also show improved behavior in less stable situations, for example, when they are able to show positive behavior even in the presence of negative behavior of themselves or their mothers in the previous period. And this finding could be interpreted as showing that the intervention promotes resilience in face of adversity. But maybe our main point in this paper is that it is important to careful model of dynamic interactions, and that videotape data has much potential to investigate mother-child, father-child interactions, however. And it's very important to understand how as a home visiting can influence parenting. So I would now continue with our follow-up results. How much time do I have left?
20 minutes.
Okay, this is great. Then it's fine.
Can I ask a question though?
Sure. I hope this was understandable.
No, I understand what you're claiming here. What I'm really asking though is, this goes back to the point about the difference between the boys and the girls. Did you break down the data on the boys, but whether or not the father was present or not? I was just take your tables and condition on whether or not there was people have claimed, the father plays a very important role for the boy. And so the question is, how much of the reaction of the boy to these matters, to these stimuli, and to this interaction pattern, how much their participation in this interaction depends on whether or not a father is home or not?
Would be it's a very good idea. We haven't done it because we already have such a small sample. If we would have done more, how can I say, heterogeneous analysis, we thought this would be a little bit difficult all the time. But yeah, I think it's a very important point, definitely.
Okay.
You know, I had a related question, which is also about the mother staying at home. Because there's something here about connection between the mother and the child. And you said that one of the effects of the program was to make mothers be more stay-at-home moms. Wonder if it plays a role here, if you looked at that.
Yeah, might be. We haven't, did we? I'm not sure whether we checked it, but I think we haven't interacted it with whether the mother were employed or not. But sure.
Well, but in the same spirit, whether the mother had another child, you said there was a substantial impact on the treated group. And so is there another small child in the house when this game is being played? I mean, there's such a thing as, you know, a fixed amount of resources. And if the mother is taking care of 2 kids, she's got to have more demand on her than if she's just got 1 kid.
Actually, this effect that we have more second birth in the treatment group than the control group is a little bit counterintuitive to that there is improved mother-child interaction in the treatment group, yes.
No, I know, but this goes back with Victor's point. I suppose they're having more kids. No, I'm asking. I don't know the answer. I'm saying, you know, certainly suppose there's another kid in the home, but the mother isn't working, so she might have more time with the kid overall, even though there are 2 kids.
This is something I'm also very curious about, and what we are trying with Gabriela now, to solve how this all fits together. And I think this is very interesting, but we are working on it.
And
Okay.
building on that point, I think a lot of people think of boys as being more susceptible to disadvantage. So I think poor quality childcare is thought to be worse for boys. So if the alternative is them to stay home, but this program doesn't promote that interaction, then I'm not sure what to make of all of that.
Interestingly, though the mothers stay at home more, childcare is not significantly, but it's even more in the treatment group, increased childcare. So they stay at home with not, how can I say, taking care more of the child. I should have said this also earlier to your question, Victor. I was just realizing it now. It's also quite interesting because childcare is actually for disadvantaged mothers, it's free. So they just stay more at home without caring for the child, interestingly.
Is this like a 2-hour, like half-day pre-K, or is this
the childcare
8-hour program? Yeah.
Most of the times it's like 6 hours. Also for the now, 5 to 6 hours. So it's really a significant relief if they are in childcare.
Yeah, this probably has to do with like access to information, right, about services.
Yeah, exactly. I think so. This is the case.
Well, also the quality of the childcare sounds like what you're saying.
But actually, the childcare quality in Germany is quite regulated. So there's mostly public supply, and this is very, quite standard, or very strong standards, to say like this. Okay, maybe I can continue with POCAN stage 2 follow-up results, which are, I think, very interesting. So these are reduced form effects now. So we haven't done a lot about mechanisms, but I think it is already very interesting. So this is a flow diagram. I will not go into detail so much. I will just say that it is balanced between treatment and control group, the follow-up sample, and actually here I will show that we have 70% of the baseline sample we could follow in our follow-up. And baseline sample phone interviews, and we could conduct assessments with 57%. So we have a problem of attrition, but we did the best we could do, and I will say a little bit more about it in a second. But what is very nice, we have from over 90% administrative data about employment, welfare receipt and household composition. Actually, although we have this attrition problem, we see that related to baseline characteristics, the treatment and control group are still balanced with with very few exceptions, but in general, we see that they are still very balanced as a treatment and control group. Okay, what are the research questions of stage 2? So the primary questions of the follow-up are, do effects of maternal well-being persist? So we find a strong effect in stage 1. Do effects on child cognitive development persist? At least we found effects on the girls' cognitive development. And do effects on non-cognitive skills of the children emerge? And to answer these questions, we defined 8 primary outcomes in 3 areas. And we also had some secondary question of the follow-up. Does the intervention have effects on completed fertility or spacing? Does the catch-up happen in welfare receipt and employment? And does the intervention influence child preferences? And but now I will focus on the primary outcomes. So readiness. We have neglectful parenting. And we have information about mother's mental health and general life satisfaction. This is very standard, or just rigorous interval, and to account at least do the weighted result. We already have published these. So the first arrow for the results is child development and life satisfaction. And in the first row, you see effects on the BUEGA, which is school readiness assessment, and we don't find effects here. But we find effects on child behavior, and we find that in the CBCL child behavior checklist, we have an effect of 0.18 standard deviation. And it is concentrating on okay, now we do a second area, which is maternal. And a question for life. In
this difference between boys and girls and these others?
Actually, we don't find the difference anymore, and more that the effects. So it's not significant. And there, yeah, girls in the treatment group perform better than girls in the control group. But for all the other outcomes, it's more, for example, for the CBCL, that boys benefited more. But it's self-rated, but the CBCL is quite reliable. Really, there are a lot of, yeah, you know, the CBCL. Yeah. Actually, and then we have adverse parenting, abuse and neglectful parenting. We have statements by the parents about their parenting. It's self-reported. But we have also reports from the children. We did pictograms where they could, where the children could enter and could state how parents react in certain situations. And we are quite confident that this is quite reliable. And actually, we don't, they are not significant, but they are in the, to say it like this, in the right direction for the parents, for the children when we did this pictogram data collection. Okay, now I will go a little bit more deeper into the effect on mental health and well-being. So what we have in black here, or what is in black, this is what I have already presented, but the red ones are new. So we had also some other outcomes on mental health and life satisfaction. So just ordinary 11 scale for life satisfaction. We have mental health. We have another life satisfaction questions, EBE, and they all show positive mental health and life satisfaction, and they all show positive effects. And what is also very interesting is that we did some of these by telephone, some by home interview. Home interviews are at a difference than the telephone